Calling all dogs, calling all dogs, calling all dogs. I am dressed in traditional Middle Eastern garments in the fashion of H.P. Lovecraft's fictional character, the Mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred. Today I will discuss if H.P. Lovecraft, widely considered the greatest weird fiction and cosmic horror writer of all time, was a homophobe and a racist. Now, I think he is the most imaginative Howard Phillips Lovecraft, the most imaginative and the most consistent weird fiction and cosmic horror writer of all time. He laid the ground for people like Neil Gaiman, Peter Straub, and Stephen King. Yes, Stephen King. And you all remember the history I have with Stephen King, especially Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, involving the gunslinger Roland Deschain. But that is a video for another day. So, we see Howard Phillips Lovecraft, born 1890 in Rhode Island, died 1937 in Rhode Island. His famous book, fictional book in his stories, The Dreaded Necronomicon. And the man that I'm trying to dress up and emulate, I'm trying to kind of emulate him, the Mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred. Okay, Howard Phillips Lovecraft, in many of his stories, especially stories like The Case of Arthur German, The Horror at Red Hook, and The Call of Cthulhu, probably one of his most famous stories, The Call of Cthulhu, obviously showed signs of being a racist who held white, Western, Caucasian Europeans in the highest regards, and Native Americans or indigenous people, and Africans, and basically and Oriental people, and anybody who's not white, Western European, Caucasian, in a not very high regard. Was he a product of his times? Who knows? Also, he was homophobia was evident in some of his stories, especially The Horror at Red Hook. I don't need to go into that story, but definitely there's a lot of bigotry, the racism, and homophobia. Who am I to say this? You could say I'm a no-mark or an insignificant person, but to be fair, was he a product of his times? Who knows? Who knows? But he did, to be fair, also, in one letter he wrote amongst, I think it was to his friend, he was a man of letters, H.P. Lovecraft, he wrote that he sympathized with his position. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but he sympathized with their position of being gay or lesbian in the late 1920s. So, Howard Phillips Lovecraft, was he, for his time in the 1920s and 1930s, unnecessarily homophobic? I'll leave it up to you to decide.